Let's get this thing going.
Check 1, 2.
The Hip Hop Study Hall podcast with DJ Eakin starts now.
About hip hop.
It's your man DJ Eakin here, Tampa's most connected DJ. In this space that we have affectionately named Hip Hop Study Hall. And the thing that I really love about this is because, and shouts out to my guy who, and I don't want to take credit for coming up with this alone, but it's such a dope description of Hip Hop Study Hall. Like in a nutshell, we communicate the possible through hip hop. And by that, I mean, like, to me, the culture has given me so many opportunities, right, to meet some really dope people. And I think I am continuing that journey today by having another dope person join me here on Hip Hop Study Hall. And I the first thing I like to do, too, is make sure that I get all names correct. And let me say something, too, before I introduce you. I kind of feel like an underachiever as I talk to you. Like just seriously. First of all, this young lady's name is Jaria, Ms. Coffee. I appreciate you for taking the time. And let me just get to why I feel like such an underachiever as I open this conversation with you. Public speaker, doula, childbirth educator, lactation counselor, community health worker, midwife assistant / apprentice doula, trainer, radio program, on-air host, and these are things that I just know. Mom, wife.
All of it.
How do you get that much dopeness into a day? How do you do it?
I don't have an answer for that. I just do it. I'm like Nike.
Just do it. Well, I want to again say, before we even get too deep into discussion, I appreciate you taking the time to come here. And as everyone knows, the biggest thing about this Hip Hop Study Hall thing to me is I want to be able to show that next generation of creatives, of adults, that you can do whatever you want. And there are a lot of steps to getting where you want to be, right? But one thing about it to me is these stories like yours, seeing someone like yourself on that camera, on that screen, it just needs to happen. And if I got to do whatever to make that happen, to tell these stories, to get myself in rooms with people like yourself, that is exactly what I plan to do. So first and foremost, right? Where do we start? Let's start with, first off, because you've had some things that you've done actually in what I would say what everyone knows is the hip hop field. And then you continuously ride this wave right beside it that you're a part of. So it's deep within you. Yeah. Let's just start there with how you maybe fell in love with hip hop. I think that's a great place to start for me.
Oh man. I would say it even goes back farther than hip hop. You know, my dad is a drummer. And so to fall in love with hip hop is to fall in love with music, to fall in love with the old school, you know, that 60s, 70s vibe that oftentimes was being sampled in records. Music has been a part of my life. It has been in my house. Literally, we could feel it, you know, so it's just part of my DNA. So I can't even give an actual moment. It's what I know, everything.
Wow. And where'd you grow up at again?
I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Okay. So, you know, that's Southwestern PA, Pittsburgh Steelers. And I don't think people automatically think about Pittsburgh. They may now, you know, with Wiz and all of that, but right. You know, growing up from my era, I don't think people always automatically think about Pittsburgh when you think about hip hop. But Pittsburgh had an amazing music scene, especially when we're talking about the jazz and the funk era. All the artists went through Pittsburgh, you know, so it might seem strange now, but it wasn't so strange back in the day.
Was there ever a time in your life, because I don't know if I should say this out loud, I want to be a rapper, I want to be a breakdancer. I think everything in hip hop that, like, of those four initial elements, maybe except for graffiti. I don't know if I really got into graffiti that much as far as wanting to be a graffiti artist, but rapping, breakdancing, then wound up the DJ thing kind of really stuck. Was there any part of that you just said, you know what, I think I might be an MC? Maybe.
Yes. I'm embarrassed to say it. But I think breakdancing was probably before even thinking like, oh, I got bars.
Right.
But breakdancing, do you remember the movie Breakin'?
Yes, I do. Breakin', Beat Street, all of that. Yes.
Oh man.
Wild Style. Yes.
My dad had all the moves and stuff.
Right.
And so, we were in the house and we were doing all of that. So you couldn't tell me that I wasn't breaking.
Okay, so you were into breaking, and then I take it there may be some rap in there, but and this could be between me and you, right? What was your old school? Did you have a rap name back in the day, or were you always at Ms. Coffee?
You know what? I've been Ms. Coffee since I can remember. I would sometimes call myself Mocha Brown.
Okay, so that's along the same lines then. See, okay, because I think we all been through some names, right? Like I had Mars Blackman for a while because of the sneaker thing, and I wasn't even wearing glasses then, and my brother and them started calling me that. So I've been, and of course I had the typical New York thing. I doubled up my name, which I ain't gonna do that here on this thing. Everybody doubled up their name and had the Roman letters on a sweatshirt, and just you couldn't tell me nothing when I got that sweatshirt.
I think I just have one of those names too. You can do a lot with coffee.
Oh yeah, you see. So, and I try to do my due diligence on you, right? Like one of the things I know is, like I said, and I wanted to get this story like from where it begins, right? So, there's of course, like you said, the culture is starting to rise, right? Everybody's starting to see this. It's not like it is now where you see everything on your phone, but around the country, right? Everybody's starting to get this taste of this thing, this rap thing, this hip hop thing, right? And I'm guessing long before you got to where you are now, and even just like doing the backstory on you, there were some things that you were actually doing in this hip hop space. Like I'm looking at hip hop editor at Beyond Race magazine, grassroots marketing at Fueled by Ramen Records. And I don't know where this part was in your career. I'm guessing you're out of high school. Maybe is this a college thing? And I guess maybe one of the things that I want to know, and I like for everybody that's young to hear this part. What steps did you take maybe to get into those jobs, or what made you say, you know what, I could do this writing thing?
Yeah, I would have to say it wasn't even in college. It might have been after college. I come from a family of entertainers, so entertainment, like I said, it's part of me. And so it's not surprising that I've always kind of found my way through it. My background's in engineering, no connection whatsoever. Like I was doing replacement steam generators in nuclear power plants, but still at night or in the evenings, I was working with local artists. I was, doing promo for concerts that were coming through. I was working Warped Tour. So I was going to work and then doing this thing when I would get off of work and on the weekends, because it was still part of me,
right.
And I would say what started it, honestly, again, it goes back to my dad. I used to be with my dad while he's writing songs and recording and producing things. And I said, yeah, I might not be the next Toni Braxton or somebody, but I like this behind the scenes, pushing somebody from the back feeling, And so the marketing side just kind of came natural to me. And, a few emails were sent and I ended up getting connected with Fueled by Ramen down in Florida, actually. Wow. And they came through Pittsburgh for Warped Tour, and next thing I knew, I was a representative in Pennsylvania for them for the grassroots marketing. So I was going through promoting shows. I was actually at shows working merch tables for all the artists. And you have to remember, a lot of times on that label, it wasn't always hip hop either. If you know much anything about that label, a lot of it was like emo, punk, alternative. But like when you love music, you don't care about that, right?
Right.
So it just kind of evolved. And then I've always been connected with different DJs across the country. And I made a friend in New York through a network of DJs that I knew. And he said, hey, Coffee, why don't you come write for BRM? You're a writer, right? And I said, yeah, I can write. And first I started writing. I was doing interviews, I was going to concerts and, the phone interviews, all of it. And I was writing. And then shortly after the writing, they saw the passion. They said, we're going to make you the editor of hip hop for Beyond Race magazine. And I'm like, me, you know, Pittsburgh. I'm thinking, me, I'm from Pittsburgh. Nobody's really checking for, this is pre-Wiz. Nobody was checking for Pittsburgh, you know, on the hip hop scene too much from what I was seeing. And so to be commuting back and forth to Brooklyn, oh man, you couldn't tell me nothing. I was living the dream while I was still working in engineering.
Yeah, that's a part I want to explore. Because think about it like this. You have, and I know you've seen this, right? You have a lot of kids or people in general that they're in this job, right? And not saying they don't even like the job a lot, but it's not necessarily their passion, like what's right here, right?
Yeah.
How hard was it for you to juggle that space? You know, the space of you're going to work every day, so you definitely got to get rest. And engineering alone, I don't know exactly what your job was every day, but engineering alone, I know that's going to take some brain space, right? That's going to take, like, you got to be attentive to detail. You got to be ready to rock every day. And you're doing this other thing that's starting to feel like a passion. And you can correct me where I'm wrong. How hard was it, or how did you handle, you know, balancing that? Because I think a lot of people are going through that now, right? They have this dream in their mind, maybe. But they have this job that's keeping the rent, the mortgage paid.
Yeah, it's really about balancing the dream and reality. And so I always tell people, you know, there's a lot of us that went to school and we're not necessarily doing what we went to school for, right? And I think the problem is not always the job. Sometimes we haven't identified our passion because we're so young when we start going to college. For me, it was, okay, I went to school, I graduated, I'm paying for this still. So I better get some, you know, return on my investment. And so I stayed working. There's also something that made my parents proud too, I'm not gonna lie. And then I had this other part of me that was just the entertainment, the writing, being that person behind the scenes. And oftentimes what I did was I was Drea coffee at work, punch out, I was Miss Coffee. And that was it, you know, and that's, even though it can be the same energy now because I'm in a different space as far as my career is concerned, it was kind of different energies, right? Because when you punch it in your 9 to 5, you have to show up and kind of, I mean, you speak up, but for the most part, you do what's assigned and get the work done. But there's a different energy when you're talking about, you know, music and hip hop and being an editor. And so I like feeling that energy. I don't know if powerful is the right word, but the energy is kind of what kept me going.
Right. How important was it to make sure, though, that you did your best work at the 9 to 5?
Very. That was mostly what was paying my bills, you know, and I always felt like, hey, what should pay off my school loans is what I went to school for. You know, and so I always went to work. I did my best. I showed up. But, you know, there's always that piece of you where you're thinking about what you really enjoy.
Right.
And so being focused, I was young. I probably struggled with that a little bit, but I knew what I had to do. You know, I was out on my own. I had my own place and everything. And when you have those responsibilities, it makes you put things in the balance a little bit more. Well,
honestly, I think that, and I'm probably going to lose my city boy card when I say this out loud. I really have to say that I really do believe, and maybe I just give this up for my female friends. Like, you guys seem to be able to kind of focus and hone in better than guys. I don't know what that's about. I'm trying to work on getting better at it, but I want to commend you and give you your props for that. By even, you know, just kind of starting to figure it out. I just do. I watch, I have a lot of female friends and I see them, you know, online, and it's like when you guys set your mind to something, and I'm not saying that dudes don't. Just maybe I got some bad dudes around me. They're not even bad, but this is going all over the place. But anyway, I just want to say that I think it's dope that you started to get, you know, that focus on, you know, being able to balance the dream as well as what's real life. And I think a lot of people need to hear that, because so many people, like you said, are not doing, I guess, what's in their heart, you know, for whatever reason. Some people it's financial. Some people are, like you said, you know, it's because their parents have said, yo, like, this is a good career for you, and you're kind of you know, you're kind of wobbling, but you know they're not trying to tell you nothing bad at the same time, right? So we are still in this space, right? Like, first of all, engineering wasn't even on this list, so now we've added something else to push my little confidence as a man down. No, okay, it's not your fault. Right? So you're doing the engineering thing. How long were you doing the engineering thing? And of course, you were in these other spaces of entertainment that the doula space started to hit you, or, or or where were you in your life that suddenly got us to where we are now? And if I'm skipping some important steps, you are more than welcome to fill them in.
No, it actually, it really segues pretty good when I think about it, because I was really doing music. I was working, doing music, and then I found out I was having twins. And so at this point, I'm doing Beyond Race. I'm working closely with the Rucker brand in New York, and now I'm carrying twins, right? And that's a life changer. That is a perspective changer a little bit. And so I had to pull back a little bit and reassess, how am I going to show up in this space as a new mom, not to just one baby, but two babies? Like, how can I balance this and be good at being a mom, So I pulled back for a little bit from the entertainment industry for a while and focused on being a mom. And what happened was, through my experiences of the care that I got, the care that I didn't get, how I had to advocate for myself, looking for support that looked like me and my experiences that I could actually relate to. Even when it comes down to finding support, vernacular, even just how we communicate, it makes things comfortable at home,
Right.
So that even that communication piece, just kind of looking for that and not finding it.
Right.
Oh,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, I was just going to say, and so I first started a blog, a support blog, and I was just documenting all of the things that I was experiencing.
Okay, I want to stop you right there. That's where I want to stop you, because I don't want you to go too far, because there's something that I read about you that I really want to get into, because I actually want you to tell me more about what a doula actually is. Am I saying it correctly? Doula, right? Okay,
yes.
That part, what that actually is, right? And how someone could get into that space. That's something I definitely want to get deeper into. But I want to touch more on this place of, I read something on you, and it says, and you kind of started to talk about it. You recognize the lack of representation for people of color in the birth service profession, right?
Yeah.
And something that really intrigued me is, I was reading one of these articles on you, and this part. The article is titled "Climate Change: Structural Racism Pose Double Threat to Black Parents. Birth Workers Can Help," right? And it starts right out with, Jeria Coffey was pregnant with her fourth child when her doctor asked if she was interested in sterilization if she knew the baby's father. I just laughed like, "Are you kidding me?" Coffey said. "You mean my husband?" And I'm guessing, because this is your fourth child, this is further down the line, right? You're in this, right? But let's take it back to, like you said in the beginning.
Yeah.
It seems to me, things like this very statement right here, things like you're talking about representation, that seemed like a space that we really, really, really needed some help in. And if I'm correct here, is that what that really triggered a lot of the passion? Like, wait, maybe this is where I'm needed.
Yes, and I experienced that gap myself. So that article, I was interviewed right after my youngest, so that was only 3 years ago that happened. But when it came to the twins, I had someone tell me, and I was probably only about 20 weeks pregnant. They said, you're gonna have a cesarean. And I said, "Well, what do you mean? I'm strong. I can push my kids out." And they says, "Well, no, we think it's best that you have a cesarean." I says, "Well, there's no reason to cut me open if I'm healthy, and I'm able. Why don't we save that for an emergency?" Well, that's not standard. And I knew that didn't sound right. So even back then in 2013, I wasn't a doula yet. I wasn't in the birth space to that end yet. I knew some things, but I wasn't in there. I said, "Oh, this isn't right. Like, nobody should tell you without, like, getting cut open is a big deal."
Right.
You know what I mean? So I didn't realize until then that there were circumstances in which people just kind of looked at you and made assumptions on the care that you deserve, simply on, their biases and how they feel about you or people that look like you. And that was the first time I had ever really recognized that in a healthcare setting. And from there, it just trickled down into a bunch of other things that happen and ambitions in this profession.
And that's the moment that you are like, this is where I'm not only starting to get a passion and curiosity for, but you also felt like we needed that. We needed you.
Yes.
In that space. Okay. Yeah. And so what were the first steps you took then? I mean, okay, so the twins are coming. Yeah. You're having this thought process. What were the first steps that you took?
The first steps that I took was I looked for other people that looked like me. And I had a hard time finding that. And I said, okay, well, I don't even see blogs that were really talking about motherhood at that stage. Some of the things that we were experiencing, things like, lactation or breastfeeding. I really didn't see a lot of that from a Black woman. So I said, And
what's crazy about you saying that to me is, this is 2013, right? Am I correct? Like this is not like, you're not talking to me about 94. You're talking to me about 2013. We are well into the new millennium.
Yes. This was only 9 years ago. And it's interesting because I'm not saying they weren't out there.
Right.
I just couldn't find any that I could relate to. How many of these people had twins the first time out the gate into motherhood? And what does that feel like? What does it feel like to have that experience in an area that's not as diverse as other cities? And I think that was the moment when I said, okay, I'm going to do this. If it doesn't exist, it will.
Right. So when we're talking about the job of a doula, right? And if I ever say any of these things wrong, and please correct me, because I feel like I'm constantly in a learning space too, but I think I've got it. What exactly does a doula do?
That's a good question. So a doula, some people liken it to a coach or a guide or assistant. The word actually originates from the word servant. Okay. And so that may rub some people the wrong way. So you may hear things like birth keeper or birth support person or birth worker. But essentially what these people do, of all these different names, is they provide educational support. So basically, again, they provide that emotional support, attending prenatal appointments at the hospital, answering all the questions, even providing partner support or support for the father, which is a whole other conversation.
And we ain't so tough in there. We ain't so tough.
No. I see real tears in those births. Being there in the birth, actually when labor is happening, watching that baby come out, and then all the changes that happen even in postpartum after. The doula is there for all of that, providing continuous support and advocacy, again, because that's that missing link. So it is needed for people that look like me. Right.
So, but they, and like I said, again, it's a learning piece for me. So they're there like, does it feel almost like they're part of the family per se? Because they're not taking the place of the doctor per se at all. They're not doing they're not taking the place of anybody on the medical staff. But I guess it's kind of like you said, it's really a big support piece and person, and really they're walking hand in hand with the family.
Yes. It's almost like being a part of the family, but you're not even taking the place of anybody in the family even. And so I always give the example, if it's a male-female relationship and the dad is there, I always tell the dad, I'm not here to take your place. I'm here to support the mother. I'm here to support you to support the mother. I'm not going to get in the way of whatever greatness you two have between the two of you.
Right.
But it's interesting because one of the things that happens is the doula understands that emotional piece, that support piece, but the doula actually also understands what's happening in most cases clinically and understands what the doctor is saying, and is really that connective tissue between the family that is actually in labor and the doctor. And so it's like, okay, did you understand that? Well, I can explain to you what's happening, or doctor, could you give them a little more time to think about that? And that's some of the things that's happening in that labor room.
Wow. And I've seen it because I've got a couple of friends that are doulas here. Most notably, shouts out to Miss Alyssa, who I see. She she does a lot of stuff on social media, and it's not even just in the birth room, right? Like there's things that are happening before, because I see things like there'll be like a mom maybe in a tub. I think there's some exercise stuff that's happening, and a lot of this stuff happens even way before we get to that time where it's like the day of, when everybody's panicking, and all I know how to do is get hot towels, because I'm just tell you that up front. I don't know. They be like, did this? Do I get hot towels? That's all I know to do. I see that on TV. Everybody gets hot towels. I don't know.
Hot towels matter. Hot towels matter. So yeah, you're right. There are a lot of things that happen before it even gets to the labor space, and that's where that emotional and physical support is happening. A lot of times I have parents, dancing in the room, working their hips out, or doing, giving them exercise, giving them nutritional advice.
Right.
There's a lot that goes into it.
So when we talk about getting ready or preparing, or even an interest in being a doula, is because, and again, I've just never seen that in an educational place. Like, are there certain schools for that, or is that like a regular, like I went to UCF? Would that be a program that's in like the medical field that I didn't look in, or how does the schooling happen for wanting to be, a doula?
That is a good question. There's not, and I'm not saying that that'll never happen. I think maybe you will have a situation where you'll have some sort of certificate program available in schools. I think that would be great to raise awareness of the profession. But oftentimes there are trainers, like I'm a trainer. And so my organization, Genesis Birth Services, trains incoming doulas who want to do this work and mentors them. There are other organizations that do the same thing. Some of them are more national or international, and some of us are smaller or growing organizations. But it's really about finding a trainer, finding a training that aligns with your values, because all trainings aren't created equally. And so you will have trainings like mine that speak directly to the needs of the Black community, which has, the poorest birth outcomes and the highest maternal mortality rates. And so I'm really speaking to the needs of the Black community, the Black and Brown community. Right. I'm speaking about racism and things. Not all trainings do that.
So and which is a great segue for me, because again, on your list of many things that you do, you have started Genesis Birth Services, right? Mm-hmm. And yes, you explained to us basically some of what you do there. Are there other services that you provide, with your Genesis Birth Services?
Yes, I provide lactation support, childbirth education, midwifery support. I do breastfeeding classes, and so I'm helping specifically for Black parents, because again, that's another place where there's a serious need for support. And so actually the room that I'm in right now is the classroom, and providing support, that in-person support where people can come and have that sense of community. And I just partnered with the state to provide similar services in state corrections institutes, starting right here in Pennsylvania.
Boom. Here's something that I want you to kind of touch on too as well, because I think that people like yourself, right? Because essentially you start out being a creative. You are a creative, right? So then you decide that you're doing these different things, right? But being a creative, a lot of times I've found that we forget something that's super important, and that's the business, right? How have you been able to balance not only doing the work, right? Because you do the actual work of being a doula. You do the actual work of being a trainer. You're constantly learning yourself, but you're also running a business. How have you been able to balance that? Or what have you used for resources to be able to help you with that? Because if you're not doing your business right, there's no partnerships happening. Or at least if those partnerships happen, right, you don't even know how to handle them because your business is not on point.
Right. So continuing education has been a big thing for me. I did have some business classes that I took in my college and school days and have some certificates there. But even still, I'm taking classes at Harvard, at Stanford.
Man, I almost left because I'm just look. we family, but you ain't just gonna keep making me feel like I'm an underachiever over here. No, I'm like, no, I really am playing. I am so proud. I'm gonna keep. Hey, look, you gonna get your flowers while you here talking to me. You gonna get your flowers, girl. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I be acting up, but you look, man.
I felt
we keep giving them flowers out here.
Thank you. But it's important to stay current to what, the business practices are, what it's like to be in a leadership role, because running a business is not the same as clocking in at, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You have so much that you have to think of. You have to know how to do contracts. You have to know how to negotiate. You have to know how to have a presence when you walk in a room. I did finish also a program at Cornell University. I forgot about that, which was specific for women's entrepreneurship. So all these, taking advantage of programs that are available, learning opportunities, especially for me, since I am busy, online learning has been a major key for me.
Yeah, and mom and wife, I that part, right? How? Yep. And you kind of mentioned this just now with saying you've taken some, you've done some things online. How important has technology been though for you with your business and what you're doing and the growth and just period? How much of a part has technology played in what you do?
Tech has a major part. I think that I was thinking about this as I was on my way to meet with you, how one of the things that's happened in COVID is it's normalized being in more than one place at one time. And so I come from doing mom things, and then I come here to do something that's a little more work related, and just using Zoom to the fullest, using Teams. I have a little bit of web development. And so really being able to have that presence online and understanding how to use other apps to get things done and outsource, all of that has been so major for me. LegalZoom, big shout out to LegalZoom, because it takes a lot of thinking out of it for me for just the typical business processes, formation and trademarks. If you will get messed up out there bad if you don't have your business in order, right? Especially if you have a really good idea. And so just understanding you need to have all your ducks in a row before you go out in there and start, trying to act like you have a business that you want to grow.
If you're talking to someone that's younger that thinks about getting into this space or just the entrepreneurial or business space period, right? And we hear the stories, how rough it is for women, period. And then we get another story on top of that of how much harder it even is on top of that for a Black woman.
Yes. What
would be, I guess, if I could get, two pieces of big advice that you would give them if they're in, and not even just the doula space, just the entrepreneurial space and being a woman and a Black woman at that, some of the things that you've had to go through.
As you ask me this, I think about the hearing that we just saw with Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. I said that right. And she shared this experience that she had in the courtyard while she was processing everything that she was experiencing, and a stranger walked past and whispered, "Persevere." When I heard that, it spoke to me, because that is what we witnessed with her, is the exact thing that most of us experience as Black women in professional spaces. It's just, that was the first time it was caught on camera. And so one of the things that I would say is to surround yourself with people who are equally driven, that understand. Oftentimes we have people around us that don't understand exactly what we're trying to accomplish or why, or maybe why we're making things harder for what it appears we're making things harder for ourselves. But just having a few people that understand the business that you're in, iron sharpens iron. And so you can bounce ideas off of each other. Having that network is really huge, and it helps you to stay encouraged. Encouragement is powerful. Words are powerful. And so if you're around people that can be positive and uplifting, you feel that. And then that energy transfer, now you can give that to somebody else. So I think, having that positive influence around you, people who are moving forward,
right?
Second, I would say focus on impact. What do you want to change? What do you want to improve? Who do you want to be out here in these business streets? Like, how do you want to be recognized? I think that's one of the things that has driven me is I say it all the time, even on my social media, impact outweighs intentions. So no matter what we set out to do, how are we impacting something? Think about that.
Yeah. That was one of the first things I saw when I opened up your website too. And I was like, I had to think about that one because like you said, things hit you when you actually see them in, either the words or like you said, like she said, the guy said to her, persevere. Sometimes when you hear those things, it just kind of hits different when you hear those things, right? And you're doing this work, and it's a lot of work. Like, I have to commend you again, like I said, for taking the time to talk to me, like even talking about the program that you're doing with the jail system, right?
Yes.
I've only touched on that space like a little bit. Like I always wanted to be able to just go and speak to those kids. And one of the things I always say to kids is, especially like a lot of kids I meet are in the juvenile system, right? So there's an end date on what they're doing, right? And I used to always tell them, you can't change what you've already done, right? So you do this right here and you focus on what's, doing this, doing it right, and what you're going to do next, and make that positive and keep working in that direction, right? So when you go inside and you're working with these women, right? And I guess you can explain to us a little bit what you're doing with the program. I know it's working with expectant mothers that are incarcerated.
Yes.
What is one of the first messages you take to them? Because they obviously got to feel like they're in this space of, I'm in jail, I'm pregnant, none of this is going right in my life.
Right. A lot of times that's the energy, exactly as you described. And so one of the very first things that I do is I establish a trusting relationship. Oftentimes when we think about someone, sometimes people have come from really rough backgrounds when they're incarcerated. And so understanding like, hey, I'm not somebody who's going to come into your life and make you feel crazy uncomfortable and then disappear. No, I'm here to impact you. I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you, regardless of what your charges are. That's not my business. My business is making sure that people in healthcare settings or pregnant individuals feel supported, and making sure that those babies feel supported. And what I do is I work with the state to connect the family to resources. Oftentimes those babies they don't see those babies again until they're released. And so those babies have to be cared for by someone. And so that caregiver family, it could be a mom, grandma, the father, whomever, connecting them to resources too, because this affects the child. Oftentimes we don't think about how the child is affected in these situations. And so it's the trust, it's providing the support. I go there every 2 weeks and I sit there and I just talk. I spend like 30 minutes talking with each person. They sit on a couch. It's almost like a home setting where they can feel relaxed. And we just talk, whatever's on their mind. Sometimes it's about their pregnancy. Sometimes it's about what's going on that they talk to their relative about over the phone. It's so impactful. And I think the most interesting thing is that they can't give me anything for it, right? The only thing that they can give me is trust. But that's huge, especially in the circumstances that they're in. Trust is a big deal.
That's a space too that I think a lot of people don't understand too. When you start doing this work, that it really truly becomes less and less about money, because it's not like a lot of these people that you're helping are going in their pocket and be like, they're paying you for that service. Yep. So you get up and you go in there. And how did the situation, even with working with the justice system, how did that even start and come about?
It's interesting because a few years ago, I was driving through the area where I live and just kind of getting familiar. And I saw there are so many prisons not far away. And I said, man, that's a women's facility. I said, oh man, there's people in there that I could be helping. I said this about 2 years ago. It was definitely pre-COVID. Fast forward to past fall, I've been doing a lot of work and, my name has been getting out there in the state. And the state, they called me and they said, hey, Coffee, we are coming to the prison. We want you to come and talk to them about doula services and doula support and what you do. Are you available? I said, sure. When do you want me to come? They said, tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
said, okay, I'll be there. And little did I know that it was going to be a situation where I was kind of going to be front and center. And it was a room with a few folks who were pregnant, who were postpartum. One mom was actually being released that day, who had a baby, a few months prior. And I could feel their eyes just looking through me. Like there were tears. People were expressing their fears, their concerns. And I'm talking to them, explaining to them what I do, what that could mean for them. And I'm walking them through scenarios. But in this room, though, it's not just me. It's a state representative. It's the Secretary of State. It's the deputy of, the Department of Corrections and the wardens. It's a room full of people. And I'm like kind of in the middle of this room, and I'm talking about this. And they're witnessing this exchange between myself and the inmates where they're crying. And I'm saying, hey, listen, this is the beginning of something that's really big. You matter. You as an inmate are about to change the face of what's happening in the prison system. So be proud of yourself. And that's where we started, right there. And I ended up supporting a few of those moms already. I've been to their births. I've been asked to cut the umbilical cord. I've been asked to give the baby their first bath as an honor. And that's what I mean, like that gratitude and that trust is all they can give. That's a big deal. Like usually the relative cuts the cord. I almost cried when she asked me that.
You look like you're getting a tad bit emotional right now with these stories and how much they mean to you. Because I'm tough, so I ain't gonna cry. Maybe when I get off this screen, I might shed a tear, but I'm tough right now. Jason's watching me, so I don't want to. Jason's looking at me like I might have to take my glasses off and wipe my eyes because
I don't want to mess my eye makeup up. But yeah, my eyes do get warm when I think about it, because the first thing I hear is, I never thought I'd be pregnant and in prison.
Wow.
It's usually not the plan to, oftentimes some folks don't even know they're pregnant until they've gotten their charges or something. So it's impactful, it's touching. And some of the things I hear, some of the things I learn in there is just like, wow, I'm glad I'm here. And they say, well, why weren't you here 15 years ago? And I'm like, well, I wasn't old enough 15 years ago, but I'm here now.
Right. And like you admitted here, like you're still trying to figure it out as well. Like, you've been doing different things, with your life, expanding and growing and that sort of thing. And I think that story to me is what's so dope. Is just like how you've gotten here and the steps you've taken and the things that you are continuing to do. Right now, are we in the middle of is there a month or something going on right now? Is there something going on right now as well?
Yes, this is Minority Health Month. I hate the word minority, but that is what it's called, Minority Health Month. And it's just a month of initiatives that focus on the needs of Black and Brown folks. This week specifically is Black Maternal Health Week, which is a week dedicated to raising awareness to the needs of Black folks in these maternal spaces. I mentioned a little while back that, as Black people, we have the highest maternal mortality rate, which means that we die the most in pregnancy and childbirth-related complications. So this isn't something that should be dusted under the rug. There's a lot of other initiatives with the World Health Organization and the CDC to raise awareness of these poor maternal mortality rates. The United States has the worst maternal mortality rates in the developed world.
Wow.
Right. So if you put that in college terms, everybody else is getting A's and B's. The United States, regardless of the technology, the advancement in healthcare, is getting a failing grade.
How is something like that happening? And we're just and look, this is me on the outside looking in. And again, I always want to learn in these spaces. But when you give me a stat like that, right, you say something like that, right, and then I look at the amount of money that I see run across the screen that's like 220 billion here, or this much for a budget here, or we spent this much, or, and this is no disrespect to rich people, or such and such just spent this much to be he bought this much shares of Twitter. So we know that this money and this stuff is out here, and we're constantly, we're talking about the metaverse, and we got this and we got this going on. How are we failing And you may or may not have this answer, but how are we failing in this
I have
space?
the answer.
Oh,
I have the answer.
There you go. How are we failing in this space?
You can't buy a mentality away. When we think about the history of this country, unfortunately, it's a very racist history. And the numbers support that is what's happening in this maternal health. Implicit bias, there's people who have explicit bias who actually know that they have, these preconceived ideas about other people. There are still people who think that Black people don't feel pain. There are studies about this. 2016, that study was done, so there's still this space where Black people are dehumanized. And because of that, the statistics are what they are. They want to blame it on things like lack of knowledge, lack of access to care. But what about when we're talking about Serena Williams? Serena Williams just had an article, I believe it was in USA Today, talking about her birth experience just a few days ago and how she thought she was going to die.
Wow.
Serena has access to the best healthcare, the best insurances, but at the end of the day, what is she? She's still a Black woman. Beyonce. We're not going to question Beyonce's access either, right? Beyonce also had a near-death experience. This is called maternal morbidity. Those near-death, an experience where you could have died. Studies show that 60% of these near misses or deaths are preventable. So why do they happen? There's a deeper conversation to be had here. And no matter how much money we see going across the ticker, no matter how many, what the stock market is, and we're watching, the market, or we're watching NFTs or anything, none of that can change a mentality, a culture. And it's unfortunate that's where we are. And so, raising awareness about these things during Black Maternal Health Week, it helps us talk about these things. It helps us kind of woosah and say, okay, well, this is where we're doing great. Not all of it is doom and gloom. There's a lot of things to celebrate too. Like there is an influx of Black doulas. There are more people who are interested in being Black midwives again, which was something that was kind of wiped out in the not too distant history. So it's a special time to focus on us.
Wow. What can, and I don't want to hold you too much longer, but this topic right here, right? We're talking about things that are going on, and health in particular. Like I think, and I tell my boys this a lot of times, bro. Like we'll be in line for all the Jordans, we'll be in line for all the Yeezys, and I'll be like, bro, when the last time you got a physical or some blood work? And this is talking to like my friends that are dudes, right? So my question is, what are a couple of steps that, and in particular, I don't want to change the topic. Let's talk about Black women in particular. What are a couple of steps that they could take to kind of make sure, themselves, that they're taking, the right steps to, whether they're getting ready for pregnancy, whether they are pregnant, or whether just being healthy in general? What are a couple of steps that our Black women, Black and brown women can take?
I would say first and foremost, understanding that the world we live in and what's around us and the pressures that we experience as Black people in this country are already affecting our health. And so being proactive and making healthy choices, reaching out for support if you're not sure about what healthy choices look like, reaching out to those community organizations wherever you are to find someone who can help you and educate you on what healthy choices look like, and make them, develop a routine of walking or exercising or stretching, just mental exercises, all of this. We're under so much pressure as a people. We experience weathering. So by the time we even get pregnant, we have health issues. We have high blood pressure, high cholesterol. We're already battling, stress and other mental health disorders. So taking care of yourself before you're even thinking about conceiving, and then passing those good habits down to other people in your family. If it's your children, if it's your aunties, your sisters, your cousins, be an influence, be that change maker. Breaking generational curses is one of the things we talk about all the time, within our people. This is one of those things. It's not just about how we treat other people, behaviors, and mental health. It's about physical health too. And then when it comes to being pregnant, have someone with you. Have a doula. Find a doula and have that person that's dedicated to you and focusing on your needs and advocating for you and guiding you through that process so you don't have to go through it alone. Nobody should have to be afraid. And that's one of the common themes in birth anymore. People are afraid. Birth and fear don't belong in the same sentence. So find a support person, a doula.
Again, all I ask is that let's keep these lines of communication open so that we can have, because I just think that there's more of these conversations that need to be had. And not only do I feel like and I think that guys should listen to these kind of conversations too, because I think a lot of things that they're just misunderstood, you know what I'm saying? And like you made this point very clear, especially in our community. Like, yeah. I don't think that we understand half the stuff that we wind up talking about or arguing about in a barbershop or a hair salon or a nail salon, right? You hear these discussions, and if you're a professional in that field, you're probably sitting there sometimes like, that ain't it. But they know how this person, right, giving out bad information or whatever, you know. So I just ask, first of all, I want to thank you for taking the time. And second of all, like, just ask that in the future, we just have more of these conversations and you keep in touch with what you have going on. And at some point, I want to get up there and come and see the work that you're doing. I think I got to get on a plane. And we got to come and see that work that you're doing. Her name is Ms. Coffee, the Genesis Birth Services. Let me make sure I get that right. And where can they find you at online? Because you also have a blog too, right? You have a blog or a newsletter or something that you put out or something like that?
I have a radio station.
You see, I didn't necessarily know if I wanted to say that, Jason, because now she's doing what I do and all the other things that she does. You know, and I meant to bring that up, but you're right. There is a whole radio thing going on, and we not leave until we talk about that. Let's give a little information on what you're doing with the radio thing. And my bad as a host, I had all these notes and I missed that part, man.
It's a lot to keep up with. It really is. It's a lot to keep up with. Yes, and so oftentimes, a lot of what I'm sharing, this information transfer, it happens both on spiltmilk.mom. Okay. Which is my online media platform.
Gotcha.
And then Spilt Milk Radio, WSPM Spilt Milk Radio is an urban AC formatted digital broadcast station. Wow. And it's also shared on an FM dial as well on WXPI FM. And what's special about what I'm doing with Spilt Milk Radio is I'm not just programming, I'm also a host on there. And so on Mondays, the very things that we're talking about here, I'm talking about all the time: mental health, wellness, nutrition, what's going on in pop culture as it relates to wellness and pregnancy and doula and childbirth and the community. And I'm speaking directly to our people. It's for the culture. Sure, anybody can benefit from it, but a lot of it is specifically for us. And I think that's what makes it special, because we have to meet people where they are. And right. So, you know, you can hear the top 20 on the urban AC charts, but you can also get some information transfer that can help change your life. And that's what Spilt Milk Radio is about. And I think it's a lifestyle station.
It's needed. It's very much needed. It's very much needed. Look, man, I said, we gonna pack it up. We gonna get the camera. We coming up there. I don't know when it's gonna happen exactly, but we coming to see the whole operation, because I think, you know, having you here has made my day. It's up to here right now, because I like having discussions and talks that matter. I do. And this one right here, I think is much needed. So anytime I can have this kind of conversation, being that I have sisters, aunts, cousins, very good friends, and people that I care about that are Black and brown female, I think that, you know, I this is the kind of discussion that I want to have, combos that matter. And I appreciate getting it with someone who really understands the space, is very much the culture, and can teach me some things, can learn me some things. Where can they find you at on social media as well?
Okay, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at The Real Ms. Coffee. That's a Z, MZ Coffee. You can also follow Genesis Birth Services on Instagram, which is simply at Genesis Birth Services. My website is www.genesisbirth.org, where you can learn more about the services that we offer and the programs. And I don't know. Can I promote Spilt Milk Radio on here?
Look, man. This is a shared space right here. Look. I am happy that you are here with me. Look, what you need? What else you need to talk? If it's something else that I missed, we can get it in right here. We can get it in right here. One thing I do want to ask you though, and I know, like you said, you're mainly based up in Pittsburgh, right? Do you travel, or has that not started to happen yet? I know you're in New York and other spaces like that are like maybe in that tri-state type of area. But how much have you traveled, or are you doing things with the technology? Is that happening?
Yes, I am traveling. I have some things in the works in Los Angeles, and always anyone who wants me at their birth, it's just a matter of a phone call and coordination and understanding the logistics of it all. But I'm on the move now. All my kids are big enough where Daddy can handle it.
Yeah, Daddy can handle it. how are the kids though? Like with all of this, mommy's going to help bring another kid in the world, and how do they look at that space?
They understand it. So the twins were at their little brother's birth. So the twins were at 4, and so I have 9-year-old twins, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. So the twins were at the now 5-year-old's birth, and all 3 of them were present for the youngest birth, which I had at home. And I have open communication. They say, "Mommy, are you going to go help a baby come out?" I say, "Yes." They say, "Okay, I think it's going to be a boy. I think it's going to be a girl. Let us know." What did they name the baby? They're very interested.
Wow.
They're watching. The kids are watching, man. And so I think that's even a motivation for me to get it right and be impactful.
Oh, I think that is very dope. Again, I appreciate you taking the time, and I know I kind of alluded to this earlier. You gave me a couple of like pointers, but I always try to leave with this. There's that one young female. She comes to you and she just wants something positive to help her, because she thinks she's going in the right direction. She's just not, how they are. They're just not, kids are just not quite sure, because one of their friends might not agree with it or whatever. What piece of positive advice would you offer?
Get a mentor. I mentor. And so if this is the direction that you want to go into, or if you're still trying to figure it out, it's never too soon or too late to have a mentorship relationship where typically friendships bud out of that, but someone who is there to help you with your growth, with your decision making, to bounce ideas off of. I think that's really important, and you just can't go wrong that way. So watch people. Are they living what they're talking about? Does their lifestyle demonstrate what the things that they're saying, the things that they're posting on social media? If it doesn't, then that's not a mentor. But if everything aligns and you can say, okay, everything's connected here. This person does this for work and their passion is embodied in so many other places. Align with that person and ask them. There's no harm in asking, "Hey, would you be available to mentor me?"
Boom. Ms. Coffee, I appreciate you again for taking the time to talk to us here at Hip Hop Study Hall. And man, let me tell you something, Jason. I know I used to come in here, Jason, and just be talking about all kinds of craziness or whatever. But I told you, 2022, these conversations was going to really matter. I swear they were. I feel like the mission got accomplished again today. Ms. Coffee, I thank you again. I appreciate you, man. And for everybody rocking with us here at Hip Hop Study Hall, if you have questions, hit us up at Hip Hop Study Hall or hit me at DJ Eakin. Or if you just want to learn more about Ms. Coffee, one more time, give them that contact info where they can reach you at.
The Real Ms. Coffee. You can hit me on Instagram or on Twitter, or you could just reach out through the website and hit the contact us box at www.genesisbirth.org.
Boom. We gone, man. I know you're trying to get it, all the latest and greatest content from Hip Hop Study Hall, right? You trying to get your hands on that? It's DJ Eakin, man. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, all right? Get the alerts. Hit that subscribe button now.